Hey everybody, Chris the old ass retro gamer here. Today I'm going to do something I've never really done before, but it is also kind of tied into something I've been talking about doing on my channel for quite a while. So, if you've been watching my channel for, I don't know, since maybe the end of 2015, I've been talking about doing a Q&A video. And I planned on doing that video in April, but it turns out that in order to interact with the people that are watching the show, I answered all the questions that people were asking in the comments section on YouTube. When time came to put together the Q&A video, I had no questions to talk about since I've already answered them. So, yeah, that kind of put a damper on things, but, you know, whatever. I still got plenty of stuff to talk about video game-wise. Who needs a Q&A video? But then I found a new channel on YouTube, Alyssa White, and then she did a video called The Ultimate Geek Tag. And it was like a series of questions regarding geekiness in general. And I was like, that's kind of interesting. I might think about doing that at some point. And then John Rigg'd just did one. And he was like, you know, you don't need to be tagged in order to answer these questions. If you feel like you want to answer the questions, just film a video on your own. And I said to myself, yes, I will do that in place of the Q&A video that I was planning on doing for months and months and months. And had no questions to answer on camera. And yes, I have watched 2 videos where these questions were already answered, but I did not commit them to memory. I did not plan out any answers in advance, so everything that I say in response to these questions is, as usual, off the cuff. There's no planning behind it, so let's see how this goes. So the first question is, what is your must-have tech gadget? I know it's the easy way out, but I'm going to say my cell phone. That is my Galaxy S6 Edge Plus. Why? I have an app on my phone that is for video game collecting. It has every video game I own listed in here. I do a lot of my shopping through my phone. I do a lot of my web surfing through my phone. I do a lot of answering, questions on YouTube through my phone. I do pretty much everything. If I'm not sitting in front of a computer, which is not very often since I'm usually not at my desk at work, or, I'm usually doing something at home or editing. Usually everything is done through this little bad boy, so I'm going with my smartphone. Next question is, which house would you belong to in Hogwarts? Ew. Well, I'm not evil or a complete and total asshole, so I will not say that I am part of Slytherin, but then again, I am not a complete goody two-shoes, so that would not put me in Gryffindor. I'm going to have to say that I am a Ravenclaw. Why? Because yes. Next is, who is my favorite Doctor? And this is referring to Doctor Who. Never really been all that into Doctor Who. When the BBC rebooted the series in the mid-2000s, I watched it then, and I watched it up until the first season of the Matt Smith era. And I have seen some of the older stuff. I saw one of the movies that they made with, I think it was like Peter Cushing or something. I can't really remember. It was a long time ago. But out of all of the Doctor Who that I have seen, I'm going to have to say Christopher Eccleston is probably my favorite Doctor Who. He was in the first season of the reboot. And why? Probably because he looked like he was having a flat-out blast playing this character. Because he's always playing like serious people, and sometimes he's playing villains. And so he never really looks like he gets a chance to just cut loose in his like film roles and whatnot, and it just like to play something that was just kind of lighthearted and fun and whimsical just looked like he was having an absolute blast, and it kind of made me really want to keep watching the show. I was sad to see him go at the end of the first season, but he is kind of a bigger star out of all the people they've been casting as Doctor Who, so yeah, I mean, I understand why he had to leave, but I wish he stuck around for a little bit longer. If you could have dinner with one fictional character, who would it be? I'm gonna say Elena from the Uncharted games. There's something about the way she was written that just made her very interesting. She was not a damsel in distress. She could hold her own, and she was just as brave and fearless as Nathan Drake was. That character type always appeals to me, like the female characters that don't need to have a dude around to define them. She was written so well, and the actress that plays her did a phenomenal job. I would just love to have a home-cooked meal with Elena and just bullshit all night long. What is your gaming system of choice? Well, my favorite console of all time is the Super Nintendo. I've said it before, but that is the first video game console I bought with my own money. My parents or grandparents had all bought the other consoles that I had before that, and some of the ones after that. But the Super Nintendo will always hold like a special place in my heart because I got a job working at Kmart as a stock boy back in like 1991 just so I could buy one because my parents were kind of like, you don't need another system. You have a Nintendo. You still have your Atari. What do you need another one for? Sadly, the SNES is a console that is not all that easy to collect for because a lot of the games, especially the ones that I'm looking for, are really expensive. So at this point, it is kind of like a love-hate thing going on. So yeah, take that as you will. If you had a superpower, what would it be? I've always kind of wanted the ability to stop time. Just stop time and be able to just walk around, not have to worry about being late for things and just wander around at my own pace, do whatever I wanted. Not that I would do anything really wrong. I would like the ability to just have more time on my hands to get things done. My life is very busy and I've always got like 2 or 3 things going on. I like to always stay busy, so having the ability to stop time and just be able to work at a slower pace would be very nice. What is your favorite fantasy world? I'm going to have to go with the grid from Tron Legacy. Yeah, it was dark all the time and it, it looked crazy. But then again, the first movie was like that too. Everything just looked so cool and just having an outfit that lit up and something about living like inside of this video game virtual reality world just sounds really cool. If you could be any fictional race, what would it be? I'm going to say the Red Martians from A Princess of Mars. I don't know if you ever read the novel by Edgar Rice Burroughs. John Carter was the movie that was made out of it a few years back. After reading that novel, I really ended up liking the way that race was described. I thought that was really interesting, and the culture just seemed extremely fascinating to me. Of course, Deja Thoris is just hot. Star Trek or Star Wars? Well, if you've ever watched this channel, you know that's a very easy answer. That is Star Trek. I grew up on it. I was watching it when I was really, really little. I saw the original motion picture in the theater with my parents. Yeah, I fell asleep watching it, but to a 4-year-old, that movie's pretty damn boring. But I've always had more of an affinity for the character interaction, and being a television series that goes on for years gives you more opportunities to develop the characters instead of just being like a 2-hour movie. Don't get me wrong, I like Star Wars to an extent. I like the original trilogy, and Force Awakens was okay. Not a fan of the prequels at all, so that kind of tainted Star Wars in my eyes. But regardless of the quality of some of the shows and some of the movies, Star Trek is always going to be the clear winner to me. Within Star Trek, Deep Space Nine is probably my all-time favorite Star Trek anything. As long as I don't have to watch Star Trek V or Voyager ever again. And the last one is list your top 5 Geektastic movies or TV shows. Funny that one is worded that way because I do have a blog called Geektastic Film Reviews. I do it on and off. I'll do it for a year, then take a year off. It's sporadic at best, but I'll put the link in the description below if you want to check it out. Top 5 Geektastic movies or TV shows. Firefly is definitely going to be in there. I love that show. Sad that it got taken off the air so early because it had so many more cool places it could go. Thankfully, we got that movie Serenity to kind of wrap up everything into a nice little bow, so you actually did get a little bit of closure, and some of the questions that were left when the show was canceled were answered. Definitely going to have to say Tron. I talk about that a lot on my channel. Tron is one of my all-time favorite movies. Not only because it has to do with video games, but because it's just fun and weird and had a lot of really cool ideas and was very ahead of its time because back in '82 when that movie came out, no one knew what the hell they were talking about in that flick. But nowadays, all that jargon is like commonplace in businesses and in home life. I mean, everyone has a computer nowadays. No one could afford one back then. Definitely going to say Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. That is probably my all-time favorite science fiction movie. I just saw it about 4 days ago in the movie theater. A theater about 20 miles away from me was showing it for one night only, and I'm not going to pass up a chance to see one of my all-time favorite movies on the big screen, and it was fantastic. just as awesome as it's ever been. Hardware is definitely on my list too. If you're not familiar with it, Hardware is like an independent science fiction horror movie that came out in 1990. It's a very underrated classic to me. Extremely violent, extremely disturbing at times, but it's also the movie that made me want to get into filmmaking. It is so visually creative, and it's shot in such a cool way, and it's almost kind of like a music video with a plot. And it made me look at movies in a different way. I saw it in the theater opening night. A friend and I was able to convince his grandfather to take us to go see it one evening, and he absolutely hated it, but me and my friend Sean, we loved it, and I've loved it ever since. It is a very creative, strange, trippy movie at times, but it is amazing. You need to check it out. And lastly, I'm probably going to say John Carpenter's The Thing. His John Carpenter's remake of The Thing from Another World from, I do believe that was the 50s. Super gross science fiction horror movie with lots of awesome creature effects and just crazy violence and ew. But it is awesome. It is all about like that Cold War paranoia. Who is the communist among you? In the movie, the alien is able to mimic anybody, so you can never tell who is one of the creatures and who isn't. So yeah, it's got this really cool paranoia streak running through it. It's scary and it's gross and it's awesome. So that's the list. I'm not going to tag anybody. If you feel like you want to do this tag on your channel or answer them in the comments below, feel free. I would love to see what everyone's answers to these 10 questions are. So if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Give the video a thumbs up if you like what you see. You'd like my answers? Sure. Share the video on the social media if you possibly can. And of course, leave any and all comments below. And I will also have links to Alyssa's original video and John Rigg's video in the description below. And until next time, I am Chris, the old-ass retro gamer, signing off.